Hellies! Welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Maria and today's video is going to be a book haul, and it's a pretty big one. It's a pretty big book haul. I actually don't even know how this happened, how I managed to accumulate this many books in 1 month. In my defence, okay, I don't really have a defence, but in my defence, some of these are pre-orders. In fact, quite a lot of these were pre-orders that just all happened to come in March. So it's not like I would just kind of bought all of these within 1 month. A lot of them were purchased, months ago, and I will admit that I forgot about a few of them. I did forget about a few of these pre-orders, but it's meant that I've amassed quite a huge book haul for this month. So just a bit of caveat, I don't think this is a normal amount of books to buy in any 1 month for anyone. This is a truly huge pile, so just want to make that clear. I don't think this is a normal amount of consumption, but it is what it is. We are where we are, and I've ended up accumulating quite a big amount of books for March, so quite a few to get through here. So without further ado, let's just get into the book haul. I honestly have no kind of rhyme or reason as to why I'll be going through these in the order that I will. I'm literally just going to be taking from the top of the pile and working my way down. So the first one I've got here is Story of My Life by Lucy Score. So this is a romance as far as I know, small town romance. I believe this is her latest release, and I believe this is following an author as the main character who has a bit of a writing deadline, can't seem to get her writing mojo, and ends up moving to this small town to try and reinvigorate her imagination. And guessing there's going to be kind of a grumpy small townsman there that she ends up falling in love with. It just sounds like it could be a fun kind of palette cleanser between some of the other reads that I have, and the main thing that made me pick this up is the sprayed edges. So this is one of the ones from the works, and it was like £5, so I thought, why not pick up a copy as something to have kind of, as I say, as a bit of a palette cleanser between some of my other reads. So that's the first book. Next up we've got The Ministry of Time by Cassandra Clare. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is one that kind of blew up on BookTok and Bookstagram last year when it came out in hardback, and definitely one that I wanted to pick up, but I ended up waiting for the paperback of this one because I think it is a little bit more kind of sci-fi leaning, so I wasn't too sure if it was going to be one that I would really enjoy. But I really like the synopsis. It's basically taking people from the past, from like the 1800s, they come to kind of modern day, and they end up getting a bit of a buddy to kind of help them to readjust to times now. And just heard some really amazing things about this, some really amazing things about the writing and kind of the undertones of this and some of the messaging within here. So I decided to pick this one up, and I think I might read it quite soon. I ended up picking up the audiobook for this one as well on kind of one of the 2-for-1 deals on Audible, so it's definitely at the forefront for me to try and read this really soon. And they came out with a few different colourways of the paperback in the UK, so there was kind of a yellow one, I think an orange one, a pink one, and this kind of turquoise one. But I really like this one because it had the turquoise on the front and then the pink on the spine as well, so that's the main reason I went with this one. But yeah, hoping to read this one really soon. Next up I've got My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh, and again I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but this is another one that it's not quite popular kind of BookTok book, but I think there is certainly a definite audience for this, and it's kind of the literary fiction girls, the cool kind of reading girls, and I'm definitely getting into more literary fiction recently, and this sounded like it could be one that I would enjoy. I think we follow an FMC in this one who is, I believe she's rich, I believe she lives in the Upper East Side or something like that in Manhattan. And essentially I think we're just following her as she's tumbling into depression and how she kind of deals with that, how she kind of maybe isolates herself within this year, I'm guessing. And that's all I really know about it. I've heard really mixed things about it. I heard some people saying it was one of the most boring books that they've ever read, and then I've heard other people saying that it was really life-changing, really moving, really enlightening. So I read a couple of pages when I was in the bookstore just to see if I liked the writing style and if it was something I thought I would enjoy, and it was definitely the type of writing style I enjoy, so quite optimistic about this one. It is very different from what I normally read, but it seems to get quite a bit of praise from the people who do enjoy it, so hoping it's going to be a win for me. Then next up I've got The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart, and this is one that kind of, it hasn't really had a lot of people speaking about it, but the people that I've heard talking about it who have read it have really loved it. It's a fantasy. I think it's a bit more high fantasy. I don't believe it's too much of a romance in here, but again I'm not too sure. I think with this one we've got this land where basically the Bone Shard Emperor is about to die and he's having to pass on the kingdom to his heir, which would be the Bone Shard Daughter. He decides he doesn't want to do that, and I think the story is kind of her vengeance for that and her trying to kind of prove herself within the land, and that's all I really noticed from the first synopsis here. But as I say, I haven't heard too many people speak about this one, but the people who have read it have said that they really enjoyed it and really enjoyed the trilogy, so it's one that's been on my radar for a little while. So when I seen this first one in the bookstore, decided to pick it up just to make sure I remember it's on my radar and have it as a series that I do want to start and make my way through. Next Next up I've got The Book of Love by Kelly Link, and I've literally heard no one talk about this. This was basically a cover pickup. I just really liked the cover of this when I seen it in the bookstore. It was just really pretty, looked a bit different, was really intrigued by it, so read the synopsis, and from what I gather within this, we've got 3 young people who have passed away. 2 of them get the chance to go back into the land of the living to try and work out how they died, and if they figure that out, they'll be able to go back to the land of the living essentially. And the thing that really sold me on this is that it does have kind of mini blurbs from Cassandra Clare, Leigh Bardugo and Holly Black, and they're 3 of my favourite authors, so if they're standing by this, if they're giving it praise, I do trust their opinion. I'm really hoping that this is one that I'm going to enjoy, and maybe it's a bit of an underdog. As I say, I haven't heard anybody talk about this one, but it's pretty chunky. I believe it is kind of a standalone fantasy as well, so I'll be really intrigued to see what I think about this one, and as I say, hopefully it's a bit of an underrated gem. Next up I've got Anxious People by Fredrik Backman, and this will be, if I read it next, the 3rd book I've read from Fredrik Backman. So I have read A Man Called Ove, or Ove, however you want to pronounce that, as well as Bartown, and I really enjoyed both of those. Really enjoyed the writing style. He does have this kind of ability to make you really feel for the characters, and he's definitely a master in terms of that character study type of writing, so really intrigued to jump into this one. I believe this kind of has a hostage situation where this bank robber ends up going in to try and rob a bank and inadvertently ends up taking all of these hostages, and that's all I really know about this one. But again, I've heard some really great praise for this. A lot of people who are starting out reading Fredrik Backman read this first and really enjoyed it, so I've had some great success with his other books, so hoping this one will be as successful as well. Next up is one that I bought in March, but I also read it in March, and you will have seen this in one of my reading vlogs, so I won't go into too much detail, but it's All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. I really love Sabaa Tahir's writing. An Ember in the Ashes is one of my absolute favourite fantasy series, so I wanted to pick this up for quite some time. This is a little bit different. It's a literary fiction. It's following 2 immigrants who are based in California, but their families both come from Lahore in Pakistan. Basically it's just following them as they're going through some turbulent times, dealing with grief, dealing with substance abuse, dealing with familial abuse, and it was just a really gripping story. I really loved the characters, I really loved the way she wrote them. I really felt for the characters as well, and it was just really moving. I really enjoyed this. I think I gave it around a 4.5. So definitely one I recommend to get on your TBR if you are into literary fiction, as I don't think you'll be disappointed in it. Next up, this is a book that I do already have a copy of, but this is the US version of Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I have the UK paperbacks, but they are extremely rigid. I don't know if you're from the UK, you know what I'm talking about, but some of our paperbacks are like absolute bricks and they're really hard to open, so decided to look out for the US version of this and ended up getting it on Sci-fi, and as you can see this has a really nice flop to it, so when I'm wanting to reread this, if I do want to annotate or anything like that, this will be a much better edition for me to pick up and try to read. Even though I do have them on my Kindle, I need my shelf trophy. Could have used the UK paperbacks for that, but regardless, that's not what we're here to discuss. But this one is a YA fantasy following our main character Bree, who at the start of the story loses her mother in a car accident. She also inadvertently sees some magic that she shouldn't have seen and is kind of trying to deal and process that within her brain. Now while she's processing her grief from her mother, she ends up joining this kind of college program for young people to kind of help her have something to focus on. When she's in this college program, she ends up finding this kind of secret society who are embroiled with Arthurian legend, and the story really goes from there. I really think this is very different to a lot of the YA stories that I've read before. I think obviously the Arthurian legend is really compelling, but more so kind of the dive that we have into some of the Black American history and how even in today's society what they have to deal with, and it was just really insightful for me, and as I said, very different to some of the books that I've read in the YA genre so far, so definitely recommend this one if you haven't read it already. There's 3 books out in the series so far. I've read all 3, give all 3 5 stars, so definitely highly recommend this book and this series overall. Next up I've got The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington, and this is the author of The Will of the Many, which is a series that I do also have on my shelves, but I am trying to get into more high fantasy and epic fantasy, and this is one of the series that continually came up when I was looking for recommendations. Now this one I believe is kind of a post-war world. I believe it's a coming of age story. I believe there's several different characters who are kind of going to end up culminating together for a main storyline, and that's all I really know because it doesn't have a synopsis on the back. So I have read up the synopsis online, but I am going to just go into this one a little bit blind and see where the story takes me, but for the most part people who I have mutually on Goodreads seem to give this a pretty good rating, and it is just one of those kind of core epic fantasy series that I keep seeing coming up on my timeline, so so really intrigued to jump into this one, see what it's all about. Not sure when I will. I do have a few that I need to finish first, but this book is staring at me a little bit from my bookshelf, so I may end up picking this up before I finish some of the other epic fantasies that I'm in the middle of. Then on a very different strain, I did pick up Wings of Starlight by Alison Saft, and I believe this is kind of a spin-off from one of the Tinkerbell movies. Now, when they came out, I was a little bit old to be watching those, so I haven't watched the movie or anything, but I did love Tinkerbell when I was growing up. She was one of kind of my OG obsessions. Had loads of ornaments and things like that of her. I still do. In fact, on my shelves, most of the little snow globes are of hers, so when I heard that this was kind of a spin-off from one of those movies, I was really intrigued to pick it up, and it just sounds like it's going to be really whimsical. I believe it's a kind of enemies to lovers scenario here, and again, I just think this would be a great kind of palette cleanser between some heavier reads. So I haven't read from Alison Saft before, but I've heard some great things about her writing, and do actually have quite a few of her books on my shelf, so I'll jump into one of them at some point, I'm sure, but heard some great things about this one. As a big Disney fan, it was one I just couldn't pass up on. Then next up, I've got Funny Story by Emily Henry, and again, this is a case of I was just waiting for the paperback to come out in this one before I read it. And similarly to the last one, this will be used as a bit of a palette cleanser between some of my fantasy reads. Now, with Emily Henry, I would say she's a bit more literary fiction with a bit of romance mixed in, so it's usually not the kind of light and fluffy reads that you would expect from maybe Elsie Silver or something like that. But with this one, I believe the story kind of follows two people who have essentially both been left by their exes for their exes. So basically the main female character, her boyfriend left for his ex, who was the fiance to the male main character, and the situation kind of leads to them ending up living together, and it's a bit of a situationship, and the story goes from there. But I've heard some great things about this one. A lot of people seem to say that this is one of their favourite Emily Henrys, so really intrigued to see how I feel about it. I think so far my favourite Emily Henry has been Happy Place, so I've only read a few of her books and I am still kind of working my way through her backlog as well, but really excited for this one, really excited for her new release, which will be coming out this month, but I'm hopefully going to be picking this one up soon as well. So that's the last of the kind of standard paperback editions, and next up we'll go through some of the pre-orders that I have of some special editions. So the first one is a Spanish edition of A Court of Frost and Starlight, and I am kind of collecting these. They're doing a bit of a series of the books that have foiling on the front and some spread edges, which I'll show you, but the dust jacket did end up being a little bit beat up in terms of when it was travelling here, but it still looks fine. I wish these were in English. If these were in English, they would be absolutely perfect for me, but very happy for the Spanish readers that they're getting these special editions. But this is kind of the reason that I've been collecting these, because I have some beautiful foiling on the naked hardback. And this is the cover of this one, so you can kind of see there, I think we've got Feyre and Elaine, and on the back we've got Nesta, but if you open it up it's obviously one big picture. And then we do have the sprayed edges which match with the rest of the ones that I have. So I had this pre-ordered for quite some time. I believe it just came out last month, so it finally got delivered. And I'll be able to put this with my other Spanish editions on my main shelves. Next up is a book that you're going to see two of within this, because as I say, somehow I forgot I had ordered certain things, and when the pre-orders came in I realised I'd ordered 2 editions. So I'm going to have to decide which one I'm keeping. I may end up keeping both, depending on how much I love the series, but I obviously haven't read it yet, but I will be reading the first book this month. So we'll see if I'm going to be keeping both, but basically the book is The Rag Picker King by Cassandra Clare, and this is the second book in the Swordcatcher series. As I say, I'm going to be reading the first book this month, but essentially in that book we're following a crown prince, a healer within the land, and what is known as a swordcatcher, basically the prince's double, who will catch swords for him when he's out doing presentations and things like that, and they're to basically protect him. And that's all I know. Obviously I am going to be reading it this month, but decided to pick up the special editions which will match my editions for the first book, just in case I really love this. I've read a lot of Cassandra Clare's work, read the entire Shadowhunter series, and really loved it, so really hopeful for this one. This is her adult debut, so I'd be interested to see how it differs from what I've read. It is more of a kind of true fantasy, it's not urban fantasy. And yeah, just intrigued to see how it differs, so obviously I'll be reading the first book this month, so I'll keep you updated on how I enjoy that, but just wanted to make sure I had the special editions, just in case I end up really loving it. And then since I've just shown you that one, I might as well show you the Illumicrate edition that I ended up ordering. I do really love the Illumicrate editions for this series, and I'm trying to get Swordcatcher in this as well, because these would be my preferred editions, but some people are reselling them for a very high price, so at the moment I'm just going to have to stick with what I have. But this is the Illumicrate edition of The Rag Picker King. As you can see, it's a completely different cover, completely customised. Then we do have these beautiful sprayed edges as well. And then this is the foiling on the naked hardback. And then we do have some character art on the end pages as well. And of course this one is signed as well. So yeah, really love this edition. As I say, I'm hoping to get Swordcatcher in this edition as well, and then I can maybe let go of the other editions that I have for the series. But for the moment I'm just going to have to be content with just having the second book in that edition, but I definitely think this is my favourite. So let's stick with Illumicrate. So next up I think is my March monthly box. So the book that we got this month is The Prince Without Sorrow by Mathri Wojciechowska, which I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Let me just put that up so you can see it. I'm sure I'm butchering that. And I believe this is a similar cover to the original, but it's just a different colorway. We do get some stenciled edges there as well. And then this is the naked hardback, foiling on the front and the back. And then we do have some artwork on the front and the back as well. So I don't know anything about this one. It just says, a prince born into violence, Prince Ashoka is considered an outcast for opposing his father Emperor brutal destruction of the Makari witches. Then there's a witch seeking revenge, so Shakti vows retribution for the murder of her aunt and annihilation of her village at the hands of the Emperor, even though she is bound by the Mayakari's pacifist code, a curse that will change the world. In her anger, Shakti casts a violent curse, and consequences of which will leave both her and Ashoka grappling for power. Do they take it and risk becoming what they most hate? Or do they risk losing power completely as the world around them is destroyed? So I believe it's inspired by ancient Indian history. I think it's going to be a trilogy as well. So I haven't heard anyone talking about this, so not sure really what to expect from this one. It is a debut, so be interested to read this to see how I get along with the writing style. But I really love when stories kind of pull from history, mythology, folklore, all of that type of thing. So definitely intrigued to see if this is something that's going to be up my street. So next up is another Illumicrate pre-order, and this is completing a series for me. So I do have the other special editions for this one, and that is House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. So this is the third book in the Crescent City series. Urban fantasy. First book is kind of a bit of a murder mystery. We're following a main character whose best friend is murdered by this kind of demon, and she ends up kind of being involved in the investigation to try and find out what happened to her. That's really just tip of the iceberg. This is a true urban fantasy with a whole host of different characters, and quite a lot you get into in here. But as I say, I have the Illumicrate editions of the first two books, so decided to get this to complete my collection, and I do really love their editions. The covers are exactly the same, so these are the same as kind of the standard UK hardback edition. But what I love about these editions are the reversible dust jackets, and these are kind of how I have them presented because the artwork is absolutely stunning on these. We have some really pretty character art, and that's probably how I will display it. I probably will reverse the dust jacket because I love this artwork on here, and it matches the two that I already have. And obviously we do have some foiling on the cover here as well. Follows all the way around to the back, and if you've read the book you know what these are kind of symbolising. And then we do have some fan art in here as well. I believe the back and the front are the same, and then these are the sprayed edges, and again they just match in with the previous two books that we got in this series. So yeah, really happy to have this to complete my collection, and now the only problem is trying to find a place to put this on my shelf. That shelf is already pretty full, so that's going to be a hard task, but yeah, really happy to have this to complete my collection. And with this you do also get some overlays, which I probably won't share because I think some of them may be spoilers, but I'll have a look and see if there's any that I can share. Okay, so there's a couple of them that they'd be very minor spoilers, but these ones don't really give you too much. It's out of context spoilers. So we'll have an overlay here. I'm not going to say which characters these are. And then another one here. So just really good quality page overlays there that I'm really excited to put in the book as well, and that came as part of kind of the pre-order. Running out of space around me to put the empty boxes. Okay, so I'll do the last Illumicrate box before I move on to Fairyloot, and this was an entire series that I ended up pre-ordering. And you may ask, have I read this series? The answer would be no. I haven't read this series, but I've heard amazing things, so really hopeful that I'm going to enjoy it. But I have kind of put a little bit of a rule on myself that if I haven't read the series, I shouldn't really be pre-ordering special editions. But past me didn't have that rule, so current me is dealing with the consequences. And the series that I pre-ordered is The Arc of Scythe by Neil Shusterman. Now, this is a series that I've heard some amazing things about. Basically anyone who's read it has ended up saying it's one of their top series, one that they really love. And when I seen that Illumicrate were doing some special editions, I really couldn't resist. I think they're really beautiful and definitely my style. So I haven't read the series, but I'm really hopeful and optimistic that this is going to be a new favourite for me. So the first book obviously is Scythe, and as you can see these are completely redesigned covers. Then we have some sprayed edges. Then we have the naked hardbacks, which are really pretty. You can see there's some foiling on there as well, and that follows the whole way round. And then we do get some character art on the end papers, and it is different on the front and on the back. So I'll probably just go through and show you all of the books, and then I'll give you a quick synopsis on what this one's about. Okay, so I've got them all now. So we've got, these are pretty heavy, Scythe, then Thunderhead, then The Toll, then Gleanings, and I believe that is the right reading order. So you can kind of see all of the sprayed edges together. They're really, really pretty. So I'll just show you book 2, which is Thunderhead. So this is the dust jacket, the naked hardback. I really love this one as well. Sprayed edges, and then the character art. Again, they're different on front and back. Then we've got The Toll, and obviously it's purple, so it's my favourite so far. Really love this. Really love the sprayed edges on here as well. And then again, in love with that naked hardback. Really love the colour and the foiling with it as well. Really pretty. And then we've got some character art. And then the last one is Gleanings, and again, it's just a really pretty cover. Really love the foiling, the sprayed edge, naked hardback. Then the character art on the end paper. So as you can see from the character art, I think this is a bit more sci-fi leaning. I believe it's YA, I believe it's a little bit dystopian, and essentially with this we're in a world where disease and death has basically been eradicated. So in order for the world population to be decreased, there are these people called Scythes who basically have to decide who is going to die and who is going to be removed from society, and it's just a really interesting concept. It's, as I say, quite a dystopian world. I'll be really intrigued to jump into this series. I've heard nothing but good things about it. It seems to get really rave reviews, so really hoping, since I've invested in this special edition set, that I do end up really loving it. But I'm sure if it doesn't work for me, I'll be able to pass this along to someone who does really love it and maybe didn't get the opportunity to pick this up. So all is not lost if I don't end up loving it, but I definitely have to be stricter with my rule for those series purchases. But all in all, I think they're really beautiful editions, so really happy to have those. Okay, so we're on the last leg. We've got 3 Fairyloot boxes. So one is the subscription box, and the other 2 are pre-orders, as I say, from a few months ago of series that I have already read. I have already read these, which is good. So the first one is the Folk of the Hour series by Holly Black. So as I say, she is one of my favourite authors. I love the Folk of the Hour trilogy and have read kind of the spin-off series of it as well. And when I seen they were coming out with these editions, I had to grab them. I absolutely love the Stolen Heir and the Prisoner's Throne in these editions because the art is absolutely stunning, so I could not pass these up. I think you'll agree when you see them why I couldn't, but I'll just go through all of the books same way as I did with the Scythe books. So this is the first book in the series. This is The Cruel Prince, and the art on these is just stunning. I love the foiling, I love the art style. I think it suits the series perfectly. If you've read it, you'll know that this art style is basically the entire vibe of The Cruel Prince, so I think they've done really well on this. Then on the back we just have a quote, and then all of the sprayed edges are just this kind of gold foiling, so they all match, but it's really pretty. And then this is the naked hardback, so there is some foiling on there as well, and it's just really gorgeous. And then there's some art on the end papers, which is different on the back and on the front. But again, just the character art in this is definitely what sold me on it, because it just fits the vibe of the series so well. So I'll just go through all of the books with you. They all have a pretty similar theme, but just slightly different colorways. So next up is The Wicked King. This is kind of a blue colourway, quote on the back. This is the naked hardback. And again, the design goes the whole way round. Gold sprayed edges again. And then there is some character art on the end pages. And then my personal favourite is The Queen of Nothing. So again, because it's purple, it's one of my favourites, but I just love the character art on this. The whole vibe is just perfect. Then again, we have a quote on the back, the naked hardcover. Again, gold sprayed edges and the artwork on the end papers. And yeah, I think just that purple colourway is probably my favourite. And then the last one is How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories. And this is kind of a companion compilation of stories about one of the characters within Cruel Prince, and you'll see that this edition, as with the normal edition, is illustrated. So when you go through it, there's quite a few different illustrations in there. Absolutely beautiful art style. Again, this just fits so well with the vibe of the series, so love this cover. And then this is the naked hardback for that one, and then the character art on the end papers. But yeah, there's a lot of art in there that I'm going to be looking through because it's absolutely stunning. So yeah, that's the entire set together. I'm really happy I picked this up. I think they're absolutely stunning. They're some of my favourite special editions, and if you haven't read this series yet, definitely pick it up. It's a YA series. It's definitely not a romantasy. There's not a lot of romance romance in here. It's a lot more political intrigue. It definitely displays the fairies as kind of more the traditional depiction of them. So if you like that kind of more folkloric depiction of the fae, definitely jump into the series. I think it's a really amazing series. I love the writing style, love all of the politics. Most of the characters are a little bit unlikable, but for me that's kind of what sets it apart from a lot of the series that I've read. So definitely highly recommend the series if you haven't read it yet. And with that set, we did also get some overlays, but again, I don't really want to show many of them because they are a little bit spoilery, but I'll just show you this one just to show you kind of the quality. They are really pretty, really great art style in there as well. So again, I'm really excited to get those in the books situated where they're supposed to be. Okay, so last two boxes. This next one is, as I say, another series that I pre-ordered. So I have the first half of it, and this is basically just the second half. And basically it's the second half of the Mortal Instruments series, so it still has the plastic on it, so I just need to get that off. So as I say, this is the second half of the series, so we've got City of Fallen Angels, City of Lost Souls and City of Heavenly Fire, and I already have the first three within this series. It's a 6-book series within kind of the Shadowhunter world. So I've already got the first three, so decided to get the second three. As you can see, they're pretty simple in terms of their design. They do just have kind of a hardback without a dust jacket with some gold foiling on it. So I'll show you them all individually. They do have all different designs that kind of fit the narrative of the story. This one's really cool, really like that one. And then as with the first three, they do align up to make this kind of picture, which is on the original paperbacks of these, so it's going to be really cool to display when I have room to display it, because at the minute I'm not too sure. But yeah, I decided to finish my collection with these as I did get the first three. And if you haven't heard of the Shadowhunter series, basically a YA urban fantasy following these characters who are essentially protecting humankind from demons and things like that. They're brought up within the society of Shadowhunters, and we're basically just following them along as they go off on certain quests, or there's mysteries to solve, but a lot of it is to do with the characters and kind of their relationships. So if you'd like to read books about kind of tension and angst and books that have a little bit of romance in there, I think these will definitely be for you. But yeah, decided to get the last three as I did get the first three in these special editions just to complete my collection. And then last up is the subscription box from Fairyloot, so I get the adult and the YA box. So this first book I believe is the YA one, and it is damaged. I am getting it replaced, but I will show you it anyway. So the book that we got this month is Where Shadows Meet by Patrice Caldwell, and looks like it's going to be pretty gothic. As you can see, there's a bit of a tear in the dust jacket there, but looks like a very gothic kind of setup just going off the cover. Then we have some foiling, and then this is the sprayed edge as well. Then there is some art on the end papers, which kind of doesn't really give the gothic vibe that the front is giving. As you can see, it does look a little bit brighter, but let's have a quick look at the synopsis. Oh, there is also a reversible dust jacket on this one, so I'm guessing this is the standard cover, but I'm not too sure. Yep, this one just says it's a sapphic vampire fantasy. Okay, there's where the gothic's probably coming in, where the princess and her unexpected ally embark on a dangerous quest to rescue a captured friend, only to uncover a dark history of love, betrayal and sacrifice. So definitely is giving more of those kind of gothic and dark vibes that we're getting from this cover. So I haven't heard anything about this one, haven't read from this author either, but honestly when it comes to fantasy and vampires, that's usually a winning combination for me. So really intrigued to read this one, see what it's about. Hopefully the story does give off kind of the vibes that are on this cover, because these are pretty much perfect for me. And the last book is the adult book, which I have already read. I did have an arc for this book, and again it is in a reading vlog that I put up recently, but that is Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. So this is the Fairyloot edition that they've done. I'm going to be completely honest, I'm not a huge fan of the cover. Not a huge fan of this cover, but I don't need to be buying anything different than this one. This is a fine copy to keep, because I did end up really enjoying this book. I gave it 4.25 stars, but this is the edition that they've come out with, so there is some foiling on there. As I say, I love the purple, but I'm just not a huge fan of the design of this one. I actually prefer the original cover. And these are the sprayed edges as well. So in terms of colour scheme and design, I'm just not a huge fan. Not a huge fan of it. I do however like the naked hardback. I think this is quite pretty. It is quite simplistic, but you know, doing what it needs to do. And then there is some character art on the end papers, on the front and on the back. Then we do have a slightly different colourway for the original cover, which I may switch this one round because I do prefer the original cover. Even though there's no foiling on this one, I just prefer it. I'm not really a huge fan of the Fairyloot iteration for it, so I may end up swapping this one round, but I do just like the art on there, so I may end up flipping this one. As I say, I have already read this one, really enjoyed it. Olivia Blake is one of my god tier authors. I've pretty much enjoyed everything I've read from her, so happy that this one didn't disappoint. And basically it just says, in terms of a synopsis, following the death of their father, 3 highly gifted siblings must confront their long-standing rivalries, dangerous abilities and unfulfilled potential as they battle for control of his vast legacy. And that really is tip of the iceberg in terms of what this story is about. There's a lot of kind of character study within here, a lot of sibling rivalry, a lot of kind of familial dynamics, a lot of generational trauma that the characters are carrying, and I just really loved it. Really ended up loving the characters by the end of it. They're mostly unlikable. I don't think you're supposed to really like them at the start of the story, and even by the end of the story they're not completely likable characters, but I ended up really loving them, so really glad I ended up reading this one. I got this as an ARC, so really happy that this was the adult pick for Fairyloot for this month, and even though I don't really love the cover, really glad to have a copy of this to put on my Olivia Blake shelf. Whew. And that's everything. That's all of the books that I bought in March, or at least all of the books that I received in March. As I say, some of these were pre-orders, some of them were subscriptions, so I didn't technically go out and buy all of them, but even when I'm looking at the pile that I did go out and buy, it was a pretty heavy book buying month, so I think I need to cull it a little bit for the next few months. Don't come back at me if my next few hauls are huge as well, but I do think I need to be a bit more mindful in terms of what I'm purchasing and adding to my TBR. As I say, most of these were actually special editions of books that I have already read, so I don't feel too guilty for that, but in terms of getting the special editions for books that I haven't read yet, I am trying to be better at that, so we'll see how it goes. We'll see how well I end up achieving that. But overall, I'm just really happy with a lot of the books that I've bought this month. I'm really excited to pick a lot of them up, so no regrets at the moment. But definitely just mindful that this is not a normal amount of books to purchase in any month. Let me know if you have any of these, if you've read any of these. I'd really love to know your opinions on some of the ones that I'm adding to my TBR. If there's any you think that I should be pushing up the stack. I have so many books I want to read, and sometimes picking can be really overwhelming, so if you do have any recommendations, definitely put them down in the comments below. And let me know the last book that you purchased and the last book that you've added to your TBR. Have you bought any special editions recently? Definitely tell me everything in the comments below. If you like this video, do remember to give it a like, and if you want to see more from me, remember to subscribe. I post 2 videos per week, and it's videos like this, so book hauls, reading vlogs, TBR jars, all good bookish things like that. Other than that, thanks so much for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one soon. Bye!